Alright, this was a standard game on both sides, and for the Bucks, Dame was killing in the SNRs or DHOs no matter how the Celts had their big defended, whether it was a drop or a switch. He was getting clean looks in his spots, so he got into a rhythm early, and then they put the rock in his hands for most of the fourth. Unfortunately, they went ice cold as a team in the last 6 minutes, and some of that was Giannis, but even throughout the night, he missed a lot of his usual makes. He struggled to get a bucket on Al, and I thought he settled for jumpers a little too much in that matchup, because it's rare to see a player deter Giannis from getting downhill. The majority of his finishes was on a mismatch, and if anything, they should have got Al off him more by hunting smaller matchups for him to constantly duck into the paint. But that's just a small part of a much bigger issue for him, and that's them not using their size advantage way more than they should, because they have the players to do it. They were at least on the offensive glass a lot, especially Bobby constantly crashing, and they found some post touches for him, Chris, or Brook at times, but they don't make a concerted effort to pound the ball inside at all. They didn't even try to make the Celts pay for assigning Tatum onto Brook, and it just reminded me of the finals where the Celts got away with it against the Mavs, but that was more understandable, because Gafford isn't the post player that Brook is. I just don't know how that's not a point of emphasis, and it's not even specific to that matchup, because it should be any time a bigger player has a small on him. But that is the biggest difference between both teams, because the Celtics' entire offense is predicated on mismatches, and that's what makes their offense lethal, because if it's not for their stars to score, then it's to trigger the scramble that opens up their 3-ball. Both the Jays can play bully ball, but it's even more so with Jalen, so his matchup of choice was Dame, and Tatum's been hunting bigs a lot more in the SNRs, so his was Brook throughout. The only downside on the night was the others not converting on their open looks from deep, and the two were chucking a little too much with them, but they didn't switch up their game plan just because shots weren't falling, so that consistency eventually paid off. Tatum just took over the entire fourth by bringing Brook up into the action non-stop, and the one time Brook got too high up, he got burned with a 4-point play. That was the start of the momentum shift, and it didn't even really matter whether it was Brook or even a smaller player, because Tatum burned the Bucks no matter how they tried to defend any of his hunts, so that just opened up the floor for the others to eat. The Celtics have mastered the art of mismatch hunting or finding their early cross-match in transition, and I think the Bucks need to start incorporating this more into their playstyle. Just watch the tape.
Puts it in. Drew Holiday with his fourth three-pointer.